Hey everyone, so welcome back to my channel. I am Bhargav and this is going to be a new series on Next.js 13 and Supabase. So Next.js 13 is really new right now. It has come up with some amazing concepts like server components, server actions. Um, just it's a huge repository of new tech right now. They're really innovating very quickly, and um, the other part of this course is Supabase, which is a database and authentication system. It's also so much more than that, but that is primarily what Supabase is. It is a way for you to authenticate your users, and it's a way for you to manage all of your data in it, right? So we are going to start building apps with Next.js 13 and Supabase. We're not just going to be building anything random. This is going to be something that you do in your day-to-day job as a software engineer. So we're going to start building a blogging app, and we're going to use Next.js 13 and Supabase. So the first step is to head over to Supabase and create a new project. And you can do so by first create your account, and then you'll have a default organization here, and then within the organization you can click on new project and then give it a name. So I'm going to just call this blogging app, and then here you need a strong password. So for now I'm going to just give a random password. Okay, and then the free plan is fine for now, and let's create this project. Okay, so now Supabase gives you a bunch of variables here that you can use to start interacting with the database. So it takes a few minutes to set up the project, but yeah. So in Next.js, while that is being set up, I'm just going to talk quickly about um, how we are going to be building our app in Next.js. So Next.js 13 has come up with a new feature called the app router. So earlier on, what we had was the pages router. So you would create all of your pages or your routes inside a folder called pages in your repository. And now there is a new folder called the app in Next.js. And the way it works is that the app router has more emphasis on server-side code. It also has more emphasis on layouts. So by layouts, what I mean is that you can decide how a group of pages will look, or how a group of pages will perform. What kind of actions need to be run for those group of pages. So all of this logic can now be put in files called layouts. So that is primarily how the app folder is different from the pages folder. There are many other differences as well, but this is just a small introduction to how we'll be building our apps, right? So we'll be building this blogging app using Next.js 13's app folder and by using Supabase. So the repository seems to be set up now. So let's go to the table editor. So right now, because this project is new, we don't have any tables. Let's take a look at the schema. So there is public, there is auth, and there are a few other schemas that Supabase has created. We don't care about any of them. We only care about public and auth. So public is where we'll create our own unique tables for our project. The other schema is the auth. So the auth schema is mainly responsible for all of the authentication features. So it has a table called users here, and when a new user signs up, those details will be stored inside the users table. Okay, so for now we don't have to do much. Let's just kickstart a new project with Next.js, and then start linking our Supabase project to it. So let's open the terminal and let's see. Okay, I'll just create a new folder quickly. Learning, cd learning. Okay, so I'm going to use yarn create next app, and so this is a utility by Next.js, and you can scaffold a new app using this pretty quickly. So I want this to be a blogging app, the name of the project, and I want to use TypeScript, and I want to use ESLint, and yes, I also want to use Tailwind CSS, and yes, I also want the src folder, and yes, I also want the app router. Would you like to customize the default? No, I don't want to customize the default import aliases. I'm fine with the default ones. So no. So let's see what happens after this. I haven't done this in a long time, so let's see how the output will look like. So also, meanwhile, while it is installing, I also want to make a small note that we'll be using TypeScript pretty heavily with Supabase. If you're not familiar with TypeScript, don't get intimidated. It's just typing information that is very useful for you while you are writing code. Other than that, we're not building too many advanced types in this course. Okay, so let me open this folder using VS Code. Okay, so now let's take a look at the directory structure. So we have the src folder, and we already have an app folder now, and we have two files here, layout and page. Besides these folders, we have a public folder for static assets, and then we have the Next.js config. There's nothing here, pretty much empty. Then we have post.css config. We need this for Tailwind. Okay, and we have a ts config JSON, which is pretty standard. There's nothing too custom about this. It's pretty simple. We just have path aliases here so that we can import files pretty easily using this asterisk symbol. Okay, so now let's quickly run yarn dev. We already have all of our node modules installed, so now yarn dev should be good enough. So now let's quickly open this file in our browser. There we go. So we have a working Next.js app with us right now. So now the next step is to we don't need any of this, so let's rip out all of this code first. Let's take a look at what we have first of all. So there is a home file here. There is a page.tsx file which has all of this content. So let's quickly remove some of this. We don't care about any of this at all, so let's remove this. Okay, I'm just going to put in home, and then there is a file called layout, and it imports some styles from global.css, and this is where the font is set, and this is using next/font, which is another util by Vercel. So Vercel is pretty much doing everything right now. It can do fonts, it can also do OG images for SEO, so many things, so much to learn. We'll cover all of these gradually, and this is this metadata is pretty much SEO information. So let us change this. If you look at the site, there is create next app here, right? So if I change this to my blogging app, okay, so it changes here. So if you look at the page source, the metadata is responsible for changing the title attribute, this, and whatever title attribute is set here, that will be the title of the document. So this is a new way of creating your SEO, your document metadata, and this will directly translate to meta tags inside your HTML. We'll discuss this more in a future video, but for now, just understand that earlier we used to have something like this: import head from next head. This is what we used to have, but that is no longer there. If you're coming from Next.js 13, Next.js 12, this is new information for you. Anyway, so the root layout has HTML and body, and I think that's it. So to tell you about the relationship between these two pages, the layout and page, what happens here is that this is the root layout of your entire app. So this file will run for every single page inside your app. This is the first layout that will be rendered, and the children in this case will be nothing but the page for that corresponding route. So I'll explain once again. So the home, the root page.tsx file corresponds to the slash route. Now let us say I want a route called about. So I'll create a new folder called about, and then in this I'll create a new page. This is a convention. If you want a route called about, then you have to create a folder called about and a file called page.tsx or jsx, depending on whether you're using TypeScript or JavaScript. And then it should have a default export, which should be a component. And I'm going to call this about page, and I'm going to return about, p about, simply a paragraph. Now let me go to localhost 3000/about. Okay, I don't know why the layout looks so absurd. What is this? Is it because of the styling somehow? Okay, I don't know why this looks absurd, but let me just copy this and put it back. We'll actually move that back to the layout. Let's change this to about. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so there is layout 3000 and then this layout. So that is some tailwind styling. We don't care about that, but so this is the home page and this is the about page. And let's see how layout works. So in layout, what I'll do is I'll move this into main and let me grab this and put it in the layout. Okay, and I'll just put something here, maybe h1 saying blogging app, and then in the page.tsx I'll just remove this main, just change this to a div or a p, and I'll do the same thing with my root page as well. A paragraph. Okay, so now we have this blogging app which is common for both pages. So if I go to /route, there is blogging app and then there is home. So what essentially is happening here is that because if you're on the /route, it first renders the layout and then it renders this page, and the contents of this page will sit inside wherever children is present. So children is simply corresponding to the page that is being rendered. Okay, so you can also have layouts within your folders. So for example, I can have another layout inside my folder here. So I'm just going to create a new file called layout.tsx again here, and here I'll need to export default another component. I'm going to let us just call this about layout, and it also needs to take children. All layouts need to take in children prop. If you don't take children prop, then that means that all the pages will return the same content, right? There will be nothing specific to the pages in that layout. Anyway, so now what I'll do is I'll render div and then I'll render children, and just here I'll put in a h2 called about layout. So now if I go to the /about route, I should see blogging app, and then about layout will render this, and this has been rendered by about layout, and this is rendered by the about page. I can go a step further. I can create another folder here, maybe something like team, and then inside that I can create a page.tsx, and here let's say I return function team page, and here let me render team. Okay, so now so this is rendering layout 1, layout 2, and then finally about. And if I go to /about and /team, then I should see both layouts rendered, and then finally teams. So it has rendered this layout and then this layout within that layout, and then finally team. So this is how Next.js 13 app folder is so much superior to the pages folder. Pages did not have a concept of layouts, and you had to customize, you had to create multiple layouts yourself, and then to nest different layouts one within the other. There was so much work to do, and this app folder simplifies this greatly. And again, needless to say, you can also create more layouts within your team and so on. And then ideally, in production apps, for example, if I show you Nextbase, my boilerplate that I'm working on, I generally have something like this. I have different folders like authenticated pages, external pages. So if you put a folder within brackets, then this will not be added to the route. We'll get to that later, but you can neatly segregate all of your layouts together and have different layouts for different pages. So in this case, I have a blog route, I have a docs route, I have a set of login pages, right? There is so much organization to your code in the app folder that you did not have with the pages folder. So I'm really happy with the app folder, right? So I hope you also see the value in using the app router. There are so many again bugs that they are actively fixing, especially in the alpha parts of the app folder, which are server components. But overall, I think my experience has been very pleasant with the app folder. Anyway, so now let's start integrating Supabase. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll create a new file called .env.local, and I want to, in fact, let's just check out a Supabase guide. Supabase app Next.js. Yep, we have a guide here. So let's we can do this, but anyway, so we need this. We need to add this to our env.local. Okay, so these are your environment variables that are generally written in .env.local file, so that, and you should not be committing them to Git. Okay, you have to make sure that your .env files, yeah, so this is Git ignored, so that is good. So your environment variables should be present inside .env files or .env.local files, and they should not be committed to a Git repository for security reasons, because other people can also see your code, see your environment variables, your secrets, and will be able to access your app on their end. We don't want that. So .env.local is a perfect way to do that here. And when you deploy it to Vercel or Netlify, you will add these env variables to that project in their secret manager or environment manager sections. We'll see that eventually, but yeah. So let's go back to our project, and here we can go to, I think it's in settings, API. So we have your URL. You have to copy that and then paste it here, and then grab the anon key and then paste that here. Okay, so next we also need to install Supabase. So let's install yarn add Supabase JS, and we'll also install auth helpers. I think let's take a look at the guide again. Yeah, we need auth helpers. So let's grab this and do yarn add. I personally use yarn, but you are free to use npm if that is your preference. Okay, so there is some login code here that we'll eventually get to later. For now, we'll just focus on connecting our Supabase to our Next.js app today. Tomorrow or in the next video, we'll see how we can add login and sign up features to our app. But for now, what we'll do is let's go to our Supabase project, and let's create a new table, and we'll just call this blog posts. Okay, and ID is fine. So these are the current columns that are present here. So let's disable row level security for now. We'll come back to this later. And let's add a title for our blog, and we want this to be a text field, and this cannot be null, so let's remove that. Let's also add a content field, which will also be a text field, and it also cannot be null. Okay, now let's save this table. Okay, so now that the table is good to go, yeah, so this is a warning which is pretty important, but we'll eventually fix this. Let's quickly insert a row. Let's add a row. We don't need to add ID, it will be auto generated. So let's create a title called lorem ipsum, and let's just get some text from lipsum.pro. Yep, this is fine. So, and let's save this. So now we have one blog post here. Let's add another one. And another one. Okay, so now we have 3 blog posts, or what eventually will be much better blog posts, but for now this is a good start. So let's start populating these blog posts and show them in our app. So we'll leave our home page as it is. Let's go to our in our app folder. Let's create a new section called blog, a new folder, and here let's create a new file called page.tsx. Again, the page for this will be our blog page component. So let's export default function blog page, and here we need to somehow fetch our blog articles. So so by default in Next.js 13, all of these components, all of these pages and layouts, these are server components. So these components are rendered in the server in a very secure way. So it's like first of all, they only run on the server. They do not run on the client. By default, all of these components only run on the server and not on the client. And we'll discover more features about server components eventually, but a new feature about server components is that they can be async. So in other words, this function is returning a promise of JSX content, but that works perfectly fine. So if I go back to my app and go to /blog page, so we are able to see this. First of all, I'm really annoyed with this layout, so let me just quickly fix that. Let's remove all of these unnecessary styles. Let's remove globals.css. I don't care about that. Yeah, this is good. This is completely fine. Okay, so now we have a blog route and our blog page is rendered, but the thing you have to note here is that this is a very different component. It is async, and until now and even today, client components, the traditional React components will not work with async keyword. React server components, the new feature in Next.js 13, which Next.js 13 supports React server components, and these components can be asynchronous. So what this means is that you can do data fetching here. So you can do something like await, fetch my data, and something like that. Okay, so let's do that. So what we'll do is, let's do await. We'll create a new function called await async fetch, async function fetch blog posts, and we'll do something here to interact with the Supabase database. So the first step here would be to create a Supabase client, and the way to do that would be to do import from Supabase auth helpers Next.js, and what we want to do here is we want to import create server component client. So we are working with server components in React, and we want to create a server component client. So let's create a server component client here. Const Supabase equals create server component client, and it takes a configuration, and you have to pass in cookies, and this is just something that we have to get used to. We don't really care about what the logic behind this is at this point, but we'll discuss this when we discuss route handlers in maybe I think the 10th or 11th video in this course. But for now, just import this from next headers, grab the cookies object and send it to create server client. It's fine. It's fine if you don't understand this for now, but this is all tied into how authentication works in Supabase and Next.js. We just need to link Supabase and Next.js together by passing the cookies, read-only cookies util to create server component client. Don't worry about it. We'll come back to this later. So now this creates Supabase client. Okay, and now we can now fetch our blog posts using. Oh, Copilot already did this for us, but let me just do it myself. So grab the Supabase client and use .from, and then what is the name of our table? The name of our table is blog posts. Supabase and from blog underscore posts, and we want to select all columns, and we don't really want to filter by using any conditions for now, so it's fine if you just leave it as this. And this command will run and return us a response, and this response contains data and an error message if there is an error. So the first question that you might ask is, first of all, how is it connecting to my database? So create server component client automatically looks for these two variables. So these two are not random arbitrary values. All Supabase auth helper clients are written to look for these two in the environment variables, next public Supabase URL and next public Supabase anon key. If you name these environment variables differently, then you'll have to pass them manually, right? So if your environment variables, if you're too fancy and try to create your own and different names like my blog post Supabase URL or my blogging app Supabase anon key, then you have to pass them yourself manually by using Supabase key is this and Supabase URL is that. But otherwise, by default, it looks for those environment variable values. So there's nothing much to do. This will automatically connect to your Supabase database. Okay. So now a response contains both data and error message. So now if there is an error message, then we want to throw that, and otherwise we'll simply return the data. So now let's fetch our blog post using this. So fetch const blog post is equal to await fetch blog post. For now it's fine. There is no type safety at this point. We haven't really configured TypeScript with Supabase at this point because it does not know the shape of the blog post table yet. So ideally we want data to be typed and the data array to have the shape containing the title and content and all of those fields that we already created here. But we'll get to that in the next video. But for now, let's assume the title and content are present, and let's change the structure to a div, and then I want to add some spacing. So class name space y4 just to give some spacing, and I'll create a blog heading and then div class name equals space y2, a little bit closer. And here I want to map over my blog posts. So blog post is an array, we know that, and so we'll simply map over all of my blog posts. For each blog post, I want to return a div with key is post.id, and let's close the div, and here I want to render a paragraph with post.title and another paragraph with post.content, and let's make this text XS. Let's keep this very small and maybe text gray. I think gray 500 will be good. Okay, are we missing anything here? Why is there a okay, so I think we're missing this. Okay, nice. So now let's take a look at our web app. There we go. So we have a working app that is connecting Next.js 13 and Supabase. We are able to fetch some data from our blog post table, and we are fetching that using our Supabase client that we created using create server component client from Supabase auth helpers. So now let me just quickly address this warning. So row level security. So what even is it? So row level security, it means that all of your rows are secure by some design. So for example, if you don't want your blog posts to be viewable by people who don't own it, or if you want to make them private until they are published, right? So maybe you want to have a status field here, and only published posts should be visible. So you can write all of these conditions using row level security. So let us say, first of all, if I enable row level security itself, then that means that by default all of these rows will be hidden. So let me enable this and quickly reload the page. The blog is empty. There are no blog posts, because even though there are blog posts, because row level security is enabled, by default all of these rows are not visible. So what I'll do is I'll add a new policy, and the policy is I want read access to be available for everyone. So this policy looks good to me. I don't want to make any changes to this one. So I'll just use this template, and this is fine to me. By default, all roles are selected, but if you only want, let us say, authenticated users to see, then you can select authenticated here. But I'm fine with this policy, and I'm going to save this policy. So now row level security is enabled, read access is enabled. So now if I reload the page, I should see all of my blog posts appear once again. Okay, so this is I think in my opinion, a good start for our course. So in the next video, we'll see how we can add authentication and how we can allow users to log in and allow users to create blog posts and show those blog posts on their profile. Okay, so once again, thanks everyone for watching this video. Please check out my SaaS boilerplate called Nextbase, which is present at usenextbase.com. It's a powerful boilerplate that will allow you to create your SaaS project super quickly, and I hope you have a great time. Have a good day. Bye bye.